How can we make the world better? By making ourselves better. The Dr. Joe Show explores how you can make positive personal change by using his groundbreaking and highly effective I Am approach to understand who we are and why we do what we do. Your small changes can have big effects.
Join us now for the Dr. Joe Show with Jim Quine and your host, Dr. Joe Schrand.
Well, hello, everybody. Jim Quine is not here tonight, but I am so excited because I have Mark Stiles here, Mark D. Stiles, Esquire, who's, and he's a
First of all, hold on. Was that your daughter just singing right there?
That was my daughter.
That is unbelievable.
Thank you.
That is
Thank you.
beautiful. She has a beautiful voice.
It's my oldest daughter, Sophie. And you know what? If people want to know more about Sophie, they can go to Facebook and look at her Facebook stuff, Science with Sophie, on YouTube as well.
Right.
And she is trying to inspire young girls, ages 7 to 14, to go into science.
Oh, cool.
And the stuff that she's doing is amazing. Science with Sophie, please check it out. It's really great.
Will do.
So we've got some stuff to chat about, but first,
Yeah.
let me do this. I just want to say this. I want to introduce Mark.
Yeah.
Mark is a husband, father of 3 awesome boys. He has been the principal attorney of Stiles Law for almost 20 years. 20 years, right?
Yes.
The firm has offices in Marshfield and Boston, where Mark has overseen close to 15,000 residential and commercial real estate transactions. 15,000? That's a lot.
It is.
Often asked to speak to real estate boards and companies on the current environment of real estate, Mark is considered a thought leader in the industry.
That's a nice bio. Thank you.
I'm not quite finished.
Oh, you're not?
No.
Okay.
He and the Stiles Law team are focused on bringing reason and calm to stressful, emotionally charged, life-changing events. The team also assists with personal estate plans and small business representation in a variety of matters. Mark D. Stiles, Esquire.
That's me.
Thank you, Mark. I'm so appreciative of you being here tonight because, in many ways, we are doing similar things.
Yes.
Even though I'm not, doing real estate transactions, I think in a way what psychiatry does is help people transact their personal real estate as they try to figure out what is their own personal value and worth. Not that they necessarily want to sell it to someone.
Right.
But that really, I think, I've been doing psychiatry actually longer than you've been doing law, which is kind of freaky to me. But I really think that's what it is. I think in our heart of hearts, a person just wants to feel valued by another person.
Right. And that's your I Am theory, right? I mean, is that what that comes down to?
Yes, it is. The I Am approach to who we are and why we do what we do. And I Am this is who I am.
Yep.
This is who I am right now at this moment in time, doing the best I can, but with the potential to change in the very next second to another I Am. It changes the way we look at people because we spent so much time looking at people as broken and less than, with less value. Why?
Right.
People are doing the best they can.
Right.
Now we need to do something with that idea.
Right.
And why not say, this is my current maximum potential.
Right.
Who I am right now.
The best version of myself.
At this moment. With the potential to change.
With other factors that may come flying at you, social or home.
Exactly it. You got the domains.
I did a little of my homework on your I Am theory. And if anyone has the time, which you should spend the time, he's got some blogs on Psychology Today. They're posted on Psychology Today, and some of them are really, they're all great, obviously, but really mind-opening.
Well, I appreciate it. So just so you know, there was a thing in medicine for a long time called the biopsychosocial model. Really important for us to try to understand the biological, the psychological, and the social component. But it was of why people are sick.
Right.
Right? And so the biopsychosocial model was adopted so we could understand why someone had some medical condition and was sick.
Okay.
But what the I Am does is add to it. We extend it by adding this other domain called the I See domain. My current concept of myself. How do I see myself?
Right.
how do I think other people see me? And technically, it's kind of, a scientific clunky term, but technically it is based on something called theory of mind.
Right.
We can't see someone's mind.
Right.
So we have to guess.
Right.
What are they thinking or feeling? But more importantly, what are they thinking or feeling about me?
Right.
That's what we want to know.
And depending on your mindset will be the conclusion of what you think they see, right? So if you're thinking negatively or down, you're thinking they think lowly of me. But if you're in a high-spirited, positive place, then of course they're thinking nice things about me, right?
Yeah, and sometimes we worry so much what people think about us that it inhibits our ability to do things. Because we're so afraid that we're going to be judged, we stop being creative. We stop taking chances. We stop maybe crossing the street. We stop going up to somebody and saying hello. We stop applying for that job. We stop thinking that we could perhaps buy that house.
Right.
So this says, forget all that.
Right.
You're doing the best you can, but now you can step back and you can wonder why. What are the influences of the home I grew up in, of the rest of the world, my social domain?
Right.
What's going on in my biological domain, in my brain and body? Am I hungry? Am I tired?
Right.
And how do I see myself? How do I think other people see me?
Right.
That's key. And I think that this applies.
And they take that with them everywhere they go, right?
Everywhere. But what's cool about it is that if you're doing it, everyone's doing it. And that's what I believe. Everyone's doing it. So that means everyone is interested in what you think about them.
Right. Right.
You think. So at any moment in time, you can remind someone of their value, but people are also good at making them feel terrible.
Right.
So
you can
get
change
to choose
their IC if you work towards doing that.
That's right, because part of the rules of the I am approach, you control no one.
Right.
You influence everyone.
Right. That was catchy.
Think about that. It's really true. You control no one. You influence everyone. You get to choose what kind of influence you want to be.
Right. When I was reading it, I was really blown away. And again, obviously it relates directly to what we do. I talk to real estate agents all the time, and they say, sometimes I wish I had went for a degree in psychology versus a business degree, because 90% of what I'm doing in these transactions is therapy.
Yeah.
I'm calming people down, because there's a lot of anxiety in it. And one of the articles I saw that you had in there talked about how these types of behaviors, anxiety can be contagious.
Yes.
And that's what we see a lot of in our business, in the industry, is sometimes one person may enter a transaction not necessarily an anxious person, but because of somebody else in the social sphere of it, right? Comes into the transaction, creates some anxiety, and then it becomes contagious. And now we have a anxious transaction versus one anxious person. And it's interesting, and I'm interested to talk a little bit more about that. So beyond what Dr. Joe does with his anxiety and standard therapy, he specializes in teen addiction, right? Is that what your main specialty is? And with that, what he's done is he's created a theater troupe. Would you call it a theater troupe?
Absolutely. They are a troupe.
Where they get together and they reenact scenarios that happened in their lives.
That's right.
With the hope to deter other kids, right? Because you present it to high schools and junior high schools, and they show real life situations that happened in the past of these recovering addicts, and they are the actors along with their loved ones, right?
That's right. Very often their parents are right in there in the show, and then in between each scene, the kids step out of character and they do these PowerPoint presentations teaching the audience about the adolescent brain and why it's at such risk for lifelong addiction. And the slogan of Drugs-Free Theater is the treatment of one becomes the prevention of many. Those kids are heroes. They're making a change. The treatment of one really is becoming the prevention of many.
Awesome.
It's the coolest thing.
It's so great. It's so great.
Yeah.
It's God's work, buddy.
Yeah.
We love you for it.
Well, these kids, they're the amazing ones. They're willing to put themselves out there. Can you imagine? You get in front of one. And it's not, commitment is great. I mean, for those of you who know about, AA and NA, people will do commitments where they'll stand up in front of other people and they'll tell their story. But this is taking that tell and putting it into show.
Right.
And it's a real script that Nicole puts together based on these kids. And the kids vet it and they memorize it and they come out there and and they perform
kill it.
Yeah, they really do.
That's great.
So let's
spend 5 minutes on real estate anxiety.
No, let's do a little bit more than that.
Cool.
So tell me, you've been doing real estate for a while. Tell me what do you notice? You must, with 15,000 transactions, you must be noticing some patterns.
It's interesting. Some people will say to me, Mark, I'll be sitting at a closing, doing what seems to be routine and mundane, handing out some paperwork and signing it, and they say, do you do this every day, all day long? And I sit back and I say, well, if you mean just handing out papers and having them signed, no. Because what I can assure you is that every single real estate transaction is unique.
Really?
Every single one of them.
Love
all
that.
15,000 plus. And that was probably, I erred on the side of caution there. That's probably more, but it's hard to really determine exactly how many. But everyone is different because of the human element.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me a bit more.
Well, so I want to kind of bend your ear. I mean, anxiety, right?
Yep.
Everybody has a little bit of anxiety.
Everybody.
Right. So if we agree that everybody's got a little bit, some have a little more, some have a lot, then we enter into this massively life-changing event, right?
Yeah.
You're either buying your first home, you're selling a home and buying a new home, selling a home and downsizing, selling a home and maybe being forced out of your home, like 10 years ago when people were selling their homes at short sales or what have you without really voluntarily selling, not something they wanted to do. But there's a lot of anxiety that gets ratcheted up. I mean, I would imagine at least tenfold, maybe 100-fold for a lot of people because of what's happening. So I'm getting ready to buy a new house. I'm probably thinking in my mind, I'm paying too much.
Right.
That's immediate. Number one, I'm overpaying. The market's rising, and I'm buying at the top. Is this house going to appreciate or is it going to crash like 10 years ago? Is there a bubble? Am I going to be stuck with this house? Do we like the neighborhood? Are the schools really good? I know the real estate agent said they were great, but I don't really understand the matrix that they use with the testings. Are the schools good? Are our kids going to make friends, right? Are we going to make friends?
Yeah.
Are we going to like the neighborhood? Are we going to have close friends in the neighborhood? Are people going to be off-putting in the neighborhood? These are things that people start to think about that if you had some anxiety already, this is going to be a really challenging time in your life. And sometimes, and when you have the buy and the sell in combination, double it, because it's going to be very stressful.
So you're saying the buy and the sell in combination means for both parties.
So that one person, maybe my wife and I, we found the house, we're going to move to a bigger house, our family's grown, we're selling our old house. So now you have two transactions with double the amount of people involved in the transaction.
Right, because you're now selling to another couple or someone, and their anxiety is going up. Am I getting
and it's
a good
contagious,
deal?
as your article said.
Right? Is it, are the schools good for my kids?
Right.
Are people going to like me? And of course, from an IM approach, what you're really looking at is all four domains.
Right.
They're all blending in together.
Right.
You've got the home domain, which is shifting from one home to another, into a new social domain of a new neighborhood.
Yep.
And the social domain of interacting with the people that you're buying and selling.
Yep.
And with
the professionals.
Which
there are a lot of them in a transaction like that. You may have an agent for the buyer of your home, your agent. Most likely your agent is the same agent of the one you're buying, but then there's an agent for the one that you're buying for the seller. And then there's attorneys all over the place. And it's a serious transaction. There's a lot of money at stake.
A lot of money.
So people get pretty amped up.
Yep.
And what we try to do is bring some calm to that environment.
And how do you do that?
Well, first, I want to just talk about some of the other causes of the anxiety.
Okay.
So when we talk about the causes, we're talking about, what is happening in the deal that causes people to ratchet it up, right? One of them is just the fact that the professionals aren't really communicating properly to them. They're using, we are involved in these deals all the time. So there are certain words and phrases and just lingo that may go right over their head.
Right.
One of the things that Ben and I have been working on for the last 3 years is we're doing some blog articles on our website that speak to that issue. We take the confusion and simplify it. And the idea came to us probably New Year's 2014. Let's speak to the consumer like they're in first grade. Let's not assume they know what a negative amortization loan is.
I don't. But
right.
And speaking of first grade doesn't mean that you are diminishing them.
No.
You're just saying here's a whole new vocabulary,
right.
and we are going to teach you
right.
a new vocabulary.
Right.
When's the last time you got angry at someone you really believed was treating you with respect?
Can't do it.
That's right, because the brain doesn't work that way. Anger is an emotion designed to change things. So you approach someone with the intention to get them to do something different. Start doing something, stop doing something. I don't know if you've ever seen any anger in the real estate transactions that you've done.
None.
Right?
None.
But they're doing it because they want something to change. But being
Right.
respected feels great.
Right.
So why would you want to change that?
Right.
Right? So the flip side of anger is anxiety. It is the absolute polar opposite.
So say that again.
The flip side of anger is anxiety. So you guys have heard about the fight-flight response?
Yes.
Right? So you're faced with a predator. You have to decide very quickly,
Yep.
if I'm strong enough to fight it,
Yep.
then I will approach it and try to get it to change. That's anger. But if I don't think I'm strong enough to fight it, I want to get the heck out of there. That's flight. That's anxiety.
Fear.
That's
Anxiety.
right. That's fear.
Okay.
Now, of course, if you think about it, there's a third F. If you don't think you're strong enough to fight and you can't get away, the next best solution is to try to become invisible and do nothing and freeze and hope the danger passes. And I think in humans, getting kind of shrinky, sorry, but in humans,
Fine.
I think that's depression.
Okay.
You're not strong enough to fight it, and you just can't get away. And think about, for those people who felt sad or depressed, you just feel shut down.
Yep.
You're shut down. And then, of course, though, humans have developed a fourth F. Friendship, fellowship, family.
So make friends with the saber-toothed tiger?
Well, maybe not the saber-toothed tiger, but you certainly should find someone to worry with. And that's part of, I think, Mark, what they turn to you. When you have somebody who is your client coming to buy a house, they turn to you for that fellowship.
Right.
And that's part of how you're modulating their anxiety.
Right.
So that's part of what humans are. The biological domain of the I am is about our brain and body. It's part of our evolution.
Yep.
And we have we've got to ask, why have human beings conserved, in other words, kept anxiety? Because there aren't any more saber-toothed tigers.
Right.
But part of our brain doesn't know that.
Right.
It just reacts as if we are in a life-threatening situation, and then it's very difficult to think things through when that happens.
Right.
So you must see this with some frequency.
Certainly. And there are, and like we had talked about from one of your articles, it could be contagious. So maybe it's the real estate professional that's bringing it in, and they're bringing it from some other place, like a inexperienced attorney, for example. Maybe the inexperienced attorney is expressing their insecurities with a fight response, right?
Sure.
So rather than concede and be deemed weak, which in all negotiations, in my mind, there has to be concession. And there is no weakness in concession.
Right.
It's success
when
you have some level of concession. Because in our mind, everyone has to feel good. Otherwise, the transaction is not going to work. And there'll be bad feelings. It will be challenging the whole way. It may get done, but people are going to be upset at the closing table, and that's not what we want. We want everyone to feel really good. Like, I sold my house to good people, and good people are buying their house from other good people, and it all works out. And it's, it's a little Pollyanna when a lot of people think that, but the reality of it can be that way.
Oh, I think it's not Pollyanna at all. What it really is, you talked about the contagion effect. Let me just explain for a moment the biological component that's going on there. It's part of our brain that are called mirror neurons. Right. Mirror neurons. Right. Think about that. You guys have looked in a mirror, right? You look in a mirror and you can make faces at yourself.
Yep.
But imagine if somebody else is looking at your face and you're activating their neurons to copy it.
Right.
Right? So a mirror neuron is a neuron that is activated. Let's say you're at a movie and you see something sad and you feel sad, or happy, you feel happy,
right.
Scared, you feel scared.
Right.
Everyone has these mirror neurons. But once you're aware of it, you can use yours to influence someone else's.
Right.
So the contagion part that you're talking about with anxiety is this unawareness that your mirror neurons are being activated because somebody else is scared. Well, if somebody else is scared, there must be a saber-toothed tiger somewhere. I might be doing something where I'm going to die.
Right.
As opposed to saying, wait a sec, let me use my mirror neurons.
Right.
I will show you respect.
Right.
Respect is what leads to value, which is what we all want.
Right.
And when we feel valued, then we can trust someone because we know that they're not going to hurt us.
Right.
And when you can trust someone, you can be creative.
Right.
You can take those chances. You can take those risks. You can, I'm going to buy this house. I remember Carol, my wife, we were talking about this, about the first house that we bought.
Yeah.
And really, the people that were selling it, there were some people that didn't want us to buy it. Right? Some real estate agent who had an ulterior motive, but there was another agent who helped us, and another one who said, do you really want to lose this house over a couple of $1,000?
Right. Well, that's a pro.
That was a pro.
That's a pro. And they're out there, and there's a lot of them on the South Shore, and it's great to work with those pros that get it, that, the reality of it is what it comes down to is simple as this. The buyer wants to buy, and the seller wants to sell.
Yeah. So
why would an attorney or any other real estate professional get in the way of that?
Right.
And obstruct it? And we see it a lot. Sometimes it's a real estate attorney who might not be a trained real estate transactional attorney, and they're more of a litigator, but they're the buyer's uncle. So they need to show their value in their mind. And sometimes it's that insecurity.
So wait a sec. I want to do a kindergarten thing.
Sure.
Transactional? A transactional litigator? What does this mean, transactional?
Okay, so just like in your field of psychiatry, there's specializations, right? So there's folks that do and treat patients differently. Lawyers are the same way. So we have lawyers that are defending criminals. We have lawyers that defend and prosecute corporations. We have lawyers that do divorces, lawyers that do estate planning, and we have lawyers that do real estate. And they do the transactional work for real estate. So they're the ones who have the wisdom and the experience to work with these buyers and sellers and say, let me counsel you. Let me advise you that this $2,000 that we're quibbling over is not worth it.
Not worth it.
So whoever advised you of that sage advice was probably a really respected, wise professional. Mm-hmm. Some will dig their heels in. No way. This is not going to happen. And again, there's three sides to every story in negotiation, right? But what we find, though, is that when reason enters into the equation, things tend to work out a lot better. And that's really the moral of the story, right?
And reason is really a different part of your brain,
right,
than where anxiety lives.
Right.
How interesting. So anxiety, it's really important people remember that anxiety is a perfectly normal part of being human.
Right.
It is absolutely normal, and all sorts of things begin to happen. So I don't know if people ever get really anxious. You ever feel like your heart starts beating fast? Or your breathing may change, or you may feel sort of sick to your stomach, or sometimes you get the cold sweats. Some people even get shaky. So it's a remarkable thing that's happened.
Right.
So what happens is when you're anxious, you think there's danger.
Right.
So you have activated the flight response. So you want to get away. Well, if you want to get away, you have to get more blood to your arms and legs. So sometimes people, get muscle cramp. They feel really stiff. I'm feeling like all of a sudden, the blood then, gets pumped. Your heart rate has to increase to pump the blood.
Right.
Right? Your breathing has to change so you can get oxygen, which is energy, to that blood. But the blood you don't just make more blood.
Right.
The blood has to come from somewhere. So we divert blood from our gut, because there's no point digesting lunch if you think you're going to be lunch.
Right.
That's why you feel sick to your stomach. You divert blood from your skin, right? Which is why you get the cold sweats, because if you're going to run from a saber-toothed tiger, you don't want to overheat.
Right.
You've got to take more energy. The brain actually demands more glucose, which is energy. So it does something called brain pull.
Yep.
And it pulls sugar away from the rest of the body, so the rest of the body gets low blood sugar, which is why you can get shaky.
Yeah.
So you've done everything exactly right if there was a saber-toothed tiger.
Right.
There aren't any.
Right. Right.
So under chronic anxiety and chronic stress, other things happen. Why do you think this is? The immune response increases when we're under anxiety and stress. Why do you think the immune response may increase? I don't mean to put you on the spot here.
Well, you are putting me on the spot,
I am,
but it's
live.
the same. It's the well, it would be the same theory of the fight, right?
Right.
I mean, you're gonna hopefully fight and not flight.
But what happens if you get bitten?
Then you gotta be cured.
No,
you
that's
gotta
right.
heal.
Then you got to have an improved immune response so you can fight off bacteria.
Right.
You know what else happens is, you did good. You begin to clot your blood faster. Why do you think you clot your blood faster if you're under stress and anxiety?
So you can heal faster.
Exactly, because you don't want to bleed out.
Right.
So these are great things under acute stress and anxiety. But if it's going on for a long time, and that's what this Manage Your Stress book is about, that's why people are at risk for heart attacks, for high blood pressure, for type 2 diabetes, for autoimmune responses where you become hyperallergic to things. So stress is great in short bits.
Right. And we have some 90-day transactions. So somebody who had mild anxiety, mild stress, and then we ratchet it up tenfold to be involved in a transaction such as this, it's going to have some sleepless nights. And it's up to us as professionals to help calm them through that. And some of the advice we give to folks is just, to be really proactive in what they're doing, right? I mean, it's like anything. It's you set your goals, whether they're mini goals or big goals. You've got, you start looking at homes, and it becomes real fast, right?
Fast.
So at first, it just seems like it's nice and fun, and you're looking at houses, and all of a sudden, the offer's accepted, and you're in it. You're in it now.
You're in it.
So the key at that point, in my opinion, always has to do with deadlines and time. Massachusetts is time is of the essence state.
Well, if you really think about it, the best way to manage your stress is to help somebody else with theirs.
Right.
And so that gets...
Well, it's like charity. Yeah. You give charity to do well for others, but it makes you feel 10 times better.
And that's what's wonderful about humanity.
Right.
And that's part of what really trying to get at is, you can look at racism and bigotry and different factions, but the reality is everyone wants the same thing.
Right.
So tell us, how do you have, what was your slogan?
We specialize in solutions.
Listen to that. We specialize in solutions.
Solution specialists.
I love that. Love it. Love it.
Well, we're not going to fight. We're not here to fight. We know that buyers are here to buy and sellers are here to sell. And we're going to try to do everything possible to make that happen with as little anxiety as possible. And one of those things that we try to do is we try to help coach them into being proactive. We started talking about that before the break, but especially if they're financing the transaction, it comes down to deadlines. And if they are proactive and get all their information set with the lender, whoever they're working with, early on, and then when the lender asks for more things, to get it to them right away, then we're not going to have those guns to our head at the last minute, because a lot of the deadlines are set up on Friday afternoon because everybody assumes that we could push it all the way to the last second. But reality is people leave on Friday afternoons around here in the summertime, and you've got a deadline of 5 o'clock on Friday, and you come to find out that you didn't get your tax return into the lender on time. Therefore, the lender couldn't turn around your commitment to lend. Therefore, you need an extension now, and it's anxiety at a 40x now as opposed to a 10x. And it's, where's my attorney? I need to get an extension. I need to protect my deposit, and I've got a gun against my head now. And if the consumer, the borrower, had been more proactive early on, that almost always would not happen.
So that's really clever. So set the deadline for like Wednesday at 3.
Yes. And then you've got some cushion. Yeah. So that's where we talk about certain deadlines. And at the end of the month is the same way. We always recommend not doing it at the end of the month because so many other people are busy at that time. You've got all of the closings accumulating at the end of the month because of this old thought process that the prepaid interest would limit the amount of money that you would have to bring to closing. So if you're paying interest in arrears, if you're closing at the last day of the month, there's the fewest day of arrears. But that's silly.
That is silly.
Because it's the same amount of money. It's just, it looks different because now you're paying a mortgage closer than if you had paid a little bit more at the closing. Your mortgage payment would have been spread out longer. So, we always recommend trying to close off of the high peak times, right? The moving companies are busy because that's when everybody's moving because of the same old, adage of close at the end of the month. So now you're paying more of a premium for movers than you would have otherwise. And maybe you're challenged to even find a mover.
So be smart about your deadlines,
right?
About when you want to do the transaction.
Right. And don't procrastinate. I mean, it's so easy to procrastinate when you've got these transactions going on. Set those mini goals, right? You're moving out. Don't wait till the last week. Set a calendar in place. And a lot of professional real estate agents do this with their clients. They'll give them a checklist of exactly where they need to be throughout the process. And that's great. But, get the walls cleared off by X date. Get the closets cleaned out by X date. Well, the closets, that's going to take forever.
Right.
Well, you know what? Set it up in 3 piles.
Keep,
toss, give away.
So we've got like 1 minute.
1 minute.
What's the takeaway with this, Mark? What's the takeaway so that folks can either contact you at your website?
Yes.
Or through you?
Yes. Find strong, wise professionals. And I don't mean, they have to have been doing it 20 years. I mean, some real estate agents and attorneys in their second and third year are wise beyond their age, right? And they do a phenomenal job. So the takeaway is find the right professional that fits you and that can help you through the transaction the way you want to. If you want a fighter, yeah, they're out there. But if you want someone who's going to get the deal done for you and make it as seamless as possible and limit the anxiety, then you're going to want to find a professional that does that, like our team.
So somebody who treats you with respect and value, builds trust, not just with you, but with everybody else. This has been so great. Folks, we'll see you later on. Thank you. Everybody, it's the Dr. Joe Show.
Sophie.
Mark, thank you. That's Sophie singing.
She sounds beautiful.
Thanks, Mark.
All right. See you, Joe.
Bye.
Thanks, buddy.
Dear Romeo.